you can always find a great twin turn. You know what a twin turn is, right?
I don't. I've
A
never heard that
Twitter
before.
intern. So
Oh,
you hire an intern who can post on Twitter for you. It's an old industry term, but seriously, you can always find someone great who's a
yeah.
journalism student who's looking to build their portfolio,
Yes.
or find someone on Upwork or Fiverr who's really great at social media and they know all the formats and the sizes and the how to write the tags and everything. And all you have to do, the simplest, like I call it the easy button,
Hmm.
all you have to do for your personal brand is create one piece of content a week. And like I said, it's easy. Just answer a question. And you can shoot a quick video on your iPhone. You can write a quick blog post if you're more comfortable doing that. And then every week you just send it to your twin turn. And that person will post it on your blog, post it on LinkedIn for you. Post, in my case, like I said, every webinars, we pull the 5 best clips from the webinar.
Hmm.
The full webinar goes on our YouTube channel, which we now have over 1 million views.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you. But again, 5 years of every month,
That's
every
right.
week, every month a webinar, every week a podcast, and then fortunately people watch it, and the algorithm took over.
Hmm.
But you just produce that one piece of content. When you're just starting out, produce that one piece of content every week, off to the intern, and then he or she slices or dices it and puts it in all the other places. And within 6 months, I promise you, everyone will be saying, "Oh, I see your stuff all the time." And
It's
that's
true.
because they follow you on LinkedIn or they follow you on Facebook, or you can email out your blog and put it on your blog on your website. Super simple. And even if you're a personal brand, back to that attorney who works at Man law firm, you can do the same thing. Just answer a question once a month on your LinkedIn, and then drop it on your Facebook and your Twitter and link back to your LinkedIn. And you'll seem omnipresent, and it'll help a lot with generating some revenue, which everybody needs to do. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever time you're listening to this podcast or watching us on YouTube, thank you for joining us on the 10 Golden Rules Internet Marketing for Law Firms podcast. We've got a little different episode today. Normally, it's me doing the interviewing. Today, I'm getting interviewed by one of the smartest guys in the biz, Charley Mann. If you're not familiar with Charley, he's amazing. His firm is called Law Firm Alchemy. He was one of the most beloved presenters at our event, 10 Golden Rules Live. And you'll get to meet me and get to meet Charley on the upcoming episode. So if you like it, click subscribe, click like, give us a 5-star rating. Enjoy. Here's me being interviewed by Charley Mann.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of They Don't Teach This in Law School. I'm your host, Charley Mann of Law Firm Alchemy and Red Kraken Creative. And my guest today is part of apparently an ongoing series of, I swear I had them on the show before, but I definitely didn't. And I'm really excited to talk with him. He has been putting on a fantastic event the past couple of years through his digital marketing company, 10 Golden Rules. He's worked with several of my clients. I have people who I've worked with who have been able to have him do LSA management, website work, etc. A really impressive individual who has been making a lot of waves in the legal marketing community writ large over the last several years. Jay Berkowitz, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Charley. I'm happy to be here and happy I got off that. I thought I was on the show list.
You know what? At some point, I'll need an official diagnosis for whatever memory lapse this is, but I'm grateful to have you here. So, Jay, you have the question, what's the one thing they don't teach you in law school?
The one thing they don't teach you in law school is how to build your personal brand.
Okay.
And that starts at an individual level and it goes right up to the firm size.
Okay, so let's dig into that. Personal brand, when you use that phrase, I think different people have different ideas of what it is. So when you use it, what does that look like?
Well, I think the first place you start is figuring out who you are and what differentiates you. And I went through an exercise myself. Had these great jobs. I worked for McDonald's and Coca-Cola, and I was at a .com called eDiets, and we got that company to $60 million in revenue. But
Wow.
I was hitting this marketing glass ceiling, I called it, where financial guy or the sales guy was always getting the COO job, or the right hand to the COO, to the CEOs. And I went through this exercise where I had to figure out my personal brand. And the first time I saw someone mention that term was at a presentation. He said, think of yourself like you're the brand manager. And I had been a brand manager at Coca-Cola. I'd worked on brands on the ad agency side. And what have you done to update your resume? What's the new shiny cleaning crystals that you've added to your own personal selling suite? And so I went through that exercise, and I said I was unique because I was a marketer and I understood digital marketing. I was strategic and understood digital. And then I came up with my brand, which is the 10 Golden Rules, and wrote a book and a presentation and spoke once, and then all the rest is history. And my company was formed 23 years ago. So
Wow.
first things first is figure out, who you are, what differentiates you. And there's riches in the niches. And like for our company, when we decided we do internet marketing for law firms 6 years ago, and only law firms, because we'd worked with law firms for many, many years. But we've kind of tripled our business since we got very focused. So I think as an individual, figure out who you are, and as a company, figure out who you are and get that brand message honed in. And then the second step is just delivering that consistently across all your different media.
So for you, when you went through that discovery of personal brand, you mentioned, yes, you're a digital marketer. Were there other aspects of like personality, hobbies, et cetera, that were also used in it?
For me, like the personality and hobbies to me is more like the flavor.
Gotcha.
But
so I think that helps define it,
yeah.
that idea of like difference between personal brand and the flavor of it.
Yeah. And again, I struggle a little bit, and a lot of people do, between when you put yourself out there, can you put yourself out there as Jay Berkowitz or as 10 Golden Rules or both? You and I are in maybe the enviable position that we can pretty conveniently do both, although you just added a second brand in your introduction, and congratulations. I've seen the marketing for the second brand. But the convenient thing for me for the last 23 years is Jay Berkowitz and 10 Golden Rules have been pretty much synonymous.
Yeah.
If you're an attorney at a larger firm, you want to carve out that personal brand identity. You want to build your network and all the things we can talk about. But it's a little less clear. But I still think you want to do both. Like if you're Jay Berkowitz at Man and Man and Man law firm, you want to build your personal brand as a excellent litigator at Man and Man and Man law firm. And then if you move, you've built your personal brand, you've built your network, people are aware, you're creating some content on LinkedIn or all your social media, video, etc. But you want to start building your personal brand, maybe even more so if you're at a firm, because most attorneys have to bring in revenue. And by the way, one thing I learned when I started my business, you got to learn how to sell.
Turns out.
Yeah.
In developing that personal brand, you mentioned the intertwining between personal brand and kind of the company brand. I think for a lot of law firms, there's an eagerness to develop some of the personal brand, even for the law firm owner, but the company doesn't always necessarily follow in the adoption of that type of brand. Do you see that reflected as well?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a struggle, the bigger the firm, and certainly when you get into the financial space, like those guys can't do anything without getting approvals. But
That's
obviously, if you're at a big firm, everything's going to have to be approved. But I think you can start with the most simple guidance, which I give everyone on either small startup, like your new startup, or an individual at a big firm who's trying to carve out their personal brand. And one of the simplest things I say to everybody is just answer questions. And you can simply do that by answering questions on video is great. Just a blog post or even just a LinkedIn post is fantastic. But if in the most simple format, you answered a question that you get asked all the time, every week, once a week, nice long LinkedIn post about a question that you get asked all the time, or something changes in the tax code or the regional personal injury laws, and answer that question. And that's a great place to start. And that's actually the foundation for what we do for law firms at 10 Golden Rules is we ask the attorneys to answer questions they get asked all the time on video. And then we put that video on YouTube, search engine optimize it, add it to the website as a blog post, write a blog post about the video with the question and answer, because then it's great for SEO because people are asking that question of Google or ChatGPT or whatever. And you're now search engine optimizing it with YouTube and with the website. And then we also use that same content on all the social media. So like when you were on my podcast and I interviewed you, or my webinar, and Charley's been on both, we took the content, we cut little snippets out, 1 or 2 minute segments where you said something particularly brilliant, which you often do. And then those all went on our company LinkedIn and my personal LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing that very, very consistently, putting out great content and LinkedIn, personal LinkedIn. So we start with YouTube. The podcast and the webinars are optimized on YouTube. They go on our blog. So they're on our website for SEO purposes. Then they go in LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, the whole Facebook, the whole social suite. And it's relatively simple, right? You and I just have to create the content, and then we call it cascading. Someone on our team can do that, and we don't need to spend the time doing.
That actually brings up something really interesting, Jay, that I hadn't thought of before now, but it relates to the personal brand discussion, which is within the idea of a personal brand. Like you have your podcast, you have your webinar, you do a great job of inviting people into your spaces, which in turn means that you're making room for a lot of other personal brands in that space. I think there are some people who maybe jealously guard the space. How do you make that integration between what you're doing for your personal brand while also making space for others?
I'm not sure if I understand the question, but I'll give you one little interesting snippet. I bet if you Google Charley Mann lawyer marketing, or even just Charley Mann, our podcast and our webinar does phenomenally well on SEO. So we're definitely building everybody else's personal brands. But are you talking about the balance between like how much is about me on my podcast and how much is about you, the guest?
Well, no, I think that you were onto something there with the idea that, okay, so someone searches for Charley and they see a 10 golden rules video. And part of the larger company brand is you invite a lot of people in. And now Jay has associations with a lot of people. And it's good for what you kind of teased earlier, the idea of building out a network that becomes an extension of your brand overall.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I just did the search because I had to. And your website and your LinkedIn, and then the third thing that came up was 3 videos, and our video was number 1. So I ranked number 3 for your name, or you and I together. One of the things about creating content and answering questions and doing it on a consistent basis is that it's incredibly powerful as it accumulates over time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, what's the secret to getting a lot of leads and getting a lot of inbound? And I say, well, the secret is my 5-year overnight success story.
And what does that look like?
What I've done is I've done a webinar every month, a podcast every week, since we picked the legal niche. So 10 Golden Rules only does internet marketing for law firms. We've been doing a webinar every month, SEO for lawyers, pay-per-click for lawyers. Charley shared his incredible 6-figure roadmap referral playbook. And so every month we get one of the smartest people that I come across in my networking or at conferences. I literally went up to Charley after he presented at Great Legal Marketing and asked if he'd come on the webinar and the podcast.
I remember.
And so I curate really fantastic content and put it out very consistently on a calendar. And then added the other layers over the years that we talked about, which is taking the snippets and putting it in social media and doing reels and Instagram format and the different YouTube clips and things like that. And you can see I don't do that stuff because I can't even explain exactly what it is my team does.
That's what a good team's for. That's why you hire good vendors.
It's incredibly powerful because people now are saying they see me all the time. I'm so blessed now that I go to a conference, like I was at a big legal conference a couple of weeks ago, and everyone's like, oh yeah, I've seen your stuff. Or they come up, oh Jay, I listened to your podcast. I watch your webinars. And we get phone calls where people are like, oh, I've listened to every podcast you did this year. I watched your webinar, the 6 parts of Google 2 times through, and I know you're the right agency for us. So that's a blessing that came from 5 years of overnight success.
Yeah. That's not an easy habit to keep. I mean, those 2 habits really side by side, that's not easy to do. There's a lot of people who get to the, 2nd year, if they're lucky, of that and say, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and hang that up. What kept you going?
I think we just started getting some initial success. And by the way, I always like to share this with people. You don't have to do a webinar. You don't have to do a podcast. You could do what I said. You could just write a LinkedIn article once, even once a month, but hopefully once a week. Answer a question. And by the way, 9 times out of 10, you answered that question in a long email to a client anyways.
That's right.
Copy and paste it, throw it in ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT to change the scenario from personal injury lawyer to a bankruptcy lawyer and put it out as a blog post or a LinkedIn article. And then you can always find a great twin turn. You know what a twin turn is, right?
I don't. I've
A
never heard that
Twitter
before.
intern. So
Oh,
you hire an intern who can post on Twitter for you. It's an old industry term, but seriously, you can always find someone great who's a
yeah.
journalism student who's looking to build their portfolio,
Yes.
or find someone on Upwork or Fiverr who's really great at social media and they know all the formats and the sizes and the how to write the tags and everything. And all you have to do, the simplest, like I call it the easy button,
Hmm.
all you have to do for your personal brand is create one piece of content a week. And like I said, it's easy. Just answer a question. And you can shoot a quick video on your iPhone. You can write a quick blog post if you're more comfortable doing that. And then every week you just send it to your twin turn. And that person will post it on your blog, post it on LinkedIn for you. Post, in my case, like I said, every webinars, we make we pull the 5 best clips from the webinar.
Hmm.
The full webinar goes on our YouTube channel, which we now have over 1 million views.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Thank you. But again, 5 years of every month,
That's
every
right.
week, every month a webinar, every week a podcast. And then fortunately people watch it and the algorithm took over.
Hmm.
But you just produce that one piece of content, you know, when you're just starting out, produce that one piece of content every week, off to the intern, and then he or she slices or dices it and puts it in all the other places. And within 6 months, I promise you, everyone will be saying, "Oh, I see your stuff all the time." And
It's
that's
true.
because they follow you on LinkedIn or they follow you on Facebook, or you can email out your blog and put it on your blog on your website. Super simple. And even if you're a personal brand, back to that attorney who works at Mann law firm, you can do the same thing. Just answer a question once a month on your LinkedIn and then drop it on your Facebook and your Twitter and link back to your LinkedIn. And you'll seem omnipresent, and it'll help a lot with generating some revenue, which everybody needs to do.
That's right. Yeah, you mentioned earlier one of the things that your personal brand stood out is you were this major brand manager, but you also had some of these digital marketing, more direct attribution skills as well. I'd love to learn a little bit more about what you took from, say, working at Coca-Cola and bringing it and merging it with some of this more direct marketing that you do.
Well, I think I'd like to talk about brand and the importance of brand today,
Mm-hmm.
particularly for law firms. And the funny part about working at Coca-Cola is it was over 100 years. Now it's probably over 125 years
Right.
that it's been marketed. And every time I always wanted to come up with new ideas. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, oh, this is a great idea. Like I had this idea, we should do a points program where every Coke you get points. And they showed me a folder this thick, but if you're listening to the audio, about a foot wide. And they'd done all the studies and they'd analyzed and they said, oh, this won't work. And then that summer, Pepsi came out with a points program and they crushed us because it was really popular. But but it's like you try and come up with a new idea for a 125-year-old brand that's marketed and done everything. The brand lessons that I like to tell about marketing really starts with something. I was doing some research for several clients and looking at a screenshot. And we mostly work with personal injury lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd search personal injury lawyer Philadelphia, personal injury lawyer. I'm down here just in Boca Raton, so in South Florida, personal injury lawyer. And what was coming up in every single market was like my client, Scott Leeser, came up, solo attorney, personal injury guy. And he was number 2 on the local service ads.
Mm.
And John Morgan was number 1. And I searched another one of my clients in Philadelphia. He was number 1 and John Morgan was number 2. And another client in California, he was number 1 and John Morgan was number 2. So I said to myself, why is it that John Morgan's coming up all across the country? Because you can't just buy your way there in the local service ads.
Right.
Like if you bid too much, it turns the algorithm off. As I looked into it, a big part of the algorithm is click-through rate. And if people see John Morgan's face and he runs $400 million worth of media, which he does, you're going to recognize him and more likely click on John Morgan than my solo attorney down here in South Florida. So that brought me to this point about brand. Okay, the Mann law firm can't compete with John Morgan, and nobody else can in terms of budget or breadth of marketing. But what you can do is get your message figured out
Mm-hmm.
and get consistency in how you deliver your brand message. So we're actually working on our brand message yet again at 10 Golden Rules. We're working on our trade show booth, our one-pager. We're going to revamp our website. But part of that is also the brand colors and the consistency. And so everywhere you appear as a company or as an individual, you're going to be super consistent. So you've got your logo figured out, your slogan figured out, and then your image, your main imagery and colors, and your key message, your headline and your image. Those are like the 4 key communications of what your brand message is. So figure out if you're the guys who fight the insurance company, or you're the gal who's in the community and gives back to the community, or if you're the ones who are the best in court, you'll fight in court. And pick that message that resonates with your personal brand and with everybody in the company, and then deliver that super consistently across all the different media, all your social media, even on your signature line on your email.
Nice. And when a lot of times I see law firm owners thinking about some of this brand and alignment on all of it, some of them are still maybe earlier in the process of figuring out who they are, right? To gain that consistency. Are there any things that you've seen or that you've experienced that help find those moments of clarity in brand development?
Well, I think one thing that helps is just pick one and go with it and know you can change it.
That's fair.
It's like we always say, done is better than perfect, and MVP, minimum viable product, in startups, right? Get it out the bloody door. Don't overthink it. Just sit down, have a brainstorming. If you can, I can refer some branding consultants if you want. We're working with a great one right now named Rose Moran, and she's working on our stuff and working with a couple of clients, and you probably met her at our conference at TGR Live. She's amazing. And so they'll help you figure out a message, and just don't get too hung up that it's perfect or that you might move into some other practice areas down the road. The biggest hiccup, I would say, for some firms is a lot of times I joked about man, and man. Like if you started a business with your dad and your brother, dad might be like mass torts and you like personal injury and your brother likes criminal. That's the only part that's a teeny bit tricky. But then, then you got to figure out, okay, who are you? You're the man family that cares or something. And then you can take that brand to market. And down the road, if dad retires and your brother figures out there's more money in PI and you guys go straight in PI, then you can evolve your message.
Right. There is definitely that fear of commitment. And then I think it sometimes causes a lot of brands to be too neutral overall, playing it a little bit too soft.
Yeah.
How do you help, or how would you encourage law firms to find that edge in their brand that maybe is missing?
Well, the first thing is really do it, because there's riches in the niches, and I've seen it over and over. And my personal story, once we decided to go all in with lawyers, and we're about triple in revenue, and it's been great for our firm. And it made my life easier, and it made my staff's life easier, because now I know if I want to get booked to speak, I want to speak at Great Legal Marketing. I want to speak at PILMA. I was there a couple weeks ago, the Personal Injury Lawyers Mastermind. I want to have my own event called TGR Live, Growth Strategies for Law Firms, right? We're very honed in on what we do, and I know what I do, so there's no discrepancy. And it makes it easier for my staff, because 80 or 90% of our business is personal injury, digital marketing, right? And they're getting really, really good at it, because now that's all we've done for 6 years is getting them lawyers listed on SEO, figuring out LSA for personal injury, figuring out Google Maps for personal injury lawyers. So it makes their job easier, because I used to bring in all kinds of deals. Hey, we got this great client with this beautiful island in the Bahamas, and you can swim with dolphins in their natural habitat. And the next day it was like a real estate deal, and we're selling land, and it's uncharted land on the back of an island on the back of a mountain in North Carolina. And then the next day it was a personal injury law firm, and the next day it was like an accounting firm. I was able to pivot because I had a lot of marketing background, but when you're 5 years into your career, it's a lot easier if you're focused on one thing. You get darn good at it and you do it all day. So I would encourage folks to pick a niche, and then how do you do it? What's the magic? Like, start with the 80-20 rule, and every business has one. 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your practice areas, and pick the one that, was really moving the needle and commit to it, right? Say that this is what we do. And you could say, oh, we also do this, but picking a niche and then making it easier for yourself and your team, I promise you'll be a win.
A lot of times, so interested in relating this back to your business, I see some firms when they're looking at, I'm going to niche down. Hey, I have 3 different practice areas. Let's be honest, like one of these is pretty much dead already. The other one I really don't get that excited about. But, and this is where it comes in, they go, but I really want to I'm scared of losing the revenue from that space. I'm scared of putting all my eggs into one basket. You've gone through this experience. What was that like for your company? What wisdom did you take from it?
So I was very scared because it was like niching down from 200 SIC codes to one.
Yeah.
And then people say, which practice area do you do? And I'm like, wait a minute, I went from 200 to one. I'm going to stick with law, and we're still going to help people other than personal injury, but we're really pretty concentric around personal injury.
Yeah.
But what I would say for people is not only is it make your life easier, not only does it make your customer's life easier. Like people arrive at a website, they're going to decide within 3 seconds if they're at the place they're looking for, right? And so you only have, like I said, your logo, your slogan, your image, and your headline. They're going to make a decision with 2 or 3 seconds. So you can't communicate too many things, and you can't communicate nothing. Everybody knows how to hit the back button. They'll go back on the Google search and look for the firm they're looking for.
That's right.
The second part of that, I would say, is really, really important, is Google is now saying you can't be too many things. You've got to figure out who you are. And the broadest example is one of our clients had all this stuff like flowering trees in Virginia and blogs about things to do with your kids in the summer in Virginia, because they're a personal injury law firm in Virginia. But, their previous ad agency, digital agency, thought they could have blogs about Virginia and then they'd rank for it. But then Google made a big algorithm change about 5 years ago and said, you've got to be very specific. So the more specific you are on your website, in your marketing, it's going to help your consumers, and it's going to help Google, and it's going to help you be found. So that's yet another reason to pick your niche and focus on it. Now, you can also have under practice areas. You can have your brother's practice area in criminal law, and he can write his articles on his LinkedIn about how he got someone out of jail. The firm as a whole, if it's the 80-20 rule and 80% of your revenues coming from personal injury, you got to hone in on it.
Yeah, taking that leap of faith. And it's interesting because there's so many stories like yours out there of people niching down and it turning out in their favor. It's really interesting, even with all of these like business success stories. I know that you play in masterminds, like you yourself seek out business growth education. We can hear all of these lessons and somehow we still need to find ways to make the mistakes for ourselves a little bit, right?
Funny enough, the mastermind was the third of what I called my God wink. And I got 3 messages. So the first one was I met this guy and he had an agency and it was about 3 times the size of my agency. And I'd never heard of him. And I'd done all this speaking and writing and books and publishing. And he said, oh, we only work with franchises. I said, how can you only work with one niche? Like, I have a hard enough time building my business, targeting all the niches. He said, well, it's great. We got really good at franchises and we got hooked up with Orange Theory. And then we got about 60 Orange Theories as clients. And corporate made us one of their official vendors. We've just been growing like crazy. And I said, okay, interesting. And then I met these guys who had the most successful software startup in South Florida. And I think it's still our record software sale. They sold their company for $360 million called eBuilder. And they only did construction software in one niche in hospitality. The 2 brothers were arguing like about niching down. And when they did, they said it's so much easier because there was only 300 big firms all around the world who needed our software. And once we became the best and we owned the 3 trade shows a year and our salespeople knew who they needed to call on, it, like our life got so much better and we 10x'd our business. And then the final one was showing up at my mastermind, which is called 7-Figure Agency. And there was at that time maybe only about 50 or 60 members who were building 7-figure agencies. And there was all these guys who only did roofing and only did garage door repair and only did lawyers and accountants and stuff like that. And all these firms were hitting 7 figures, which is $1 million in recurring revenue. So no projects is how they define it in the 7-figure community.
Interesting.
And so I said, okay. And I looked up, I said, okay, God, I get it. 3 messages. There took me 3 pounded over the head. And then we decided to go specialize with lawyers. But very quickly we went all in. We had to redo our website. And so we had to say 10 golden rules, internet marketing for law firms. And it's the best thing we've done.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations on all of it. If people are interested in learning more about what you all do and connecting with you, what's the best place to send them?
Best place is 10goldenrules.com or 10 Golden Rules or Jay Berkowitz on all the social media. And definitely check out our YouTube channel. Charlie's on there and some really amazing webinars. We've done webinars on EOS for law firms and YouTube. We've got some great content on creating YouTubes and building. We've got personal brand stuff and rainmaking. So highly recommend the YouTube channel as well.
That's fantastic. All right, Jay, one last little question for you. It's a three-parter. What are you reading, watching, and listening to these days?
I'm reading The NVIDIA Way and Outlive. I'm going back and forth. So
Nice.
Great story on Jensen Huang. It's how $100 billion, massive chip manufacturer. It's fascinating how they saw their way to build that business.
Yeah.
And Outlive is a great book about wellness and longevity. Both recommended to me actually by two different attorneys.
Nice.
So thank you guys. Reading, watching, mostly watching YouTube these days. As a matter of fact, my last presentation, I talked about the 3 hottest trends for legal growth strategies and marketing. And the first one was AI, of course. The second one was branding. And the third one was YouTube. Because I think, and I checked the numbers, I mean, YouTube's absolutely on fire. And basically what YouTube did is they TikToked themselves. So you used to see YouTubes of people that you followed, but then they started showing you YouTubes of things that you would be interested in.
Right.
So I see all kinds of stuff about legal, all kinds of stuff about marketing, about running your business, and the Winnipeg Jets or hockey. Because that's pretty much all I'm all about. So reading, watching, and is the third one listening?
Listening, yep.
Yeah, so podcasts, love Charlie's podcasts, 4 or 5 internet marketing podcasts. Love the All In podcast. Those guys just keep nailing it. If you haven't seen that one, it's Jason Calacanis, who ironically was on the 10 Golden Rules of Internet Marketing podcast before he had a podcast. Now has the biggest podcast in the world. Jason was doing a search startup when we interviewed him many years ago. And that podcast is amazing. They just had Sundar Pichai, I hope I got his name right, the CEO of Google, talking about Google's AI product and how they're going to monetize it. And by the way, they're going to have to monetize it because it's really expensive to run AI. And ChatGPT is going to have ads coming soon, I promise you. Because it's billions of dollars, trillions of dollars. Matter of fact, I learned on that podcast, we're going to have to double the energy output of the United States to accommodate AI. So if you can imagine that task, like all the energy that we produce in the United States, we're going to have to double it to meet the demands of AI.
Holy
smokes. That's going to be really expensive. And so you're going to see ads on your ChatGPT soon. There's my
No kidding. Well, Jay, I appreciate your time, wisdom, and insights here. As always, it's good to talk with you, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks. This was lots of fun.
And we'll see you all in the next episode of They Don't Teach Us in Law School.
Thank you for listening to the 10 Golden Rules of Internet Marketing for Law Firms podcast. Please send questions and comments to podcast@10goldenrules.com. That is podcast@TENGoldenrules.com.